explain a little bit. If the foundation of acting is the reality of doing, then acting is not about the words, but it's about how you use the words to get the thing done that you're getting done in the scene. Let's look at this scene from Thief. James Caan's character is trying to adopt a child who's in the foster care system, and this person who works here is trying to determine whether or not his application will be approved or denied.
You were in charge of the shop?
Lady, I was a convict. I was doing time.
You were what?
Let's go.
You have to understand, we have more applicants than children.
Then why do you still have kids here? As a kid, I would not be falling all over myself to stay in one of these places. I mean, we will relieve you of some of the burden.
The point is, we establish criteria for parenting, and an ex-convict compared to other desirable.
Wait, so we'll take a kid that's not so desirable.
Of course, there's a lot of dialogue exchange, but these two people are in the midst of these activities and they're trying to get them done. Actors need to train themselves to do things, not to say things. This exercise is called the line-by-line exercise. Let's use this example from All My Sons, my favorite play, written by Arthur Miller. Now, this scene is just between Joe and Chris, father and son. And Chris is trying to get the approval of Joe and Kate for marrying Anne. He wants to ask Annie to marry him. We're going to jump right into the middle of the scene. Now in the script, Keller is Joe. Chris says, "You know Larry's not coming back, and I know it. Why do we allow her to go on thinking that we believe with her?" Now when you go line by line, let's say you're playing Chris. You would say something, which is the line, you'd say it, but then you'd say it from your point of view. Taking ownership of the line looks something like this. "Dad, you and I know that Larry isn't coming back. It's been 3 years. She's obviously in denial, right? So what are we doing by placating her? What are we doing by stringing her along? Isn't that counterproductive to her well-being?" Whatever it is from your point of view. And then the person playing Keller would, before they say their line, respond from their point of view using their own words. If you were playing Keller, you might say something like, "Well, honestly, I don't know what the best thing to do is. I don't know. It's a really tough position. Yeah, it's unlikely that Larry's going to come back, but I don't know what to do." That may be your instinct about how you might respond. Then you go to your line. "What do you want to do? Argue with her." So then you would put that in your own words. Well, what's your solution to knowing this? Just to get into a fight with her, to argue with her? I mean, how do you figure you're going to come up with some solution to this problem that I've been dealing with? Right? Maybe that's what you say. And then Chris would say, "I don't want to argue with her, but it's time she realized that nobody believes Larry is alive anymore. Why shouldn't she dream of him? Walk the nights waiting for him. Do we contradict her? Do we say straight out that we have no hope anymore? That we haven't had any hope for years now?" So if you put this in your own words, it might be something like, "No, it's not that I want to fight with her, but of course she's going to be in denial because no one ever challenges her beliefs about it. No one ever says, Mom, I think it's time to move on. I actually don't believe that. We don't give her any reason to believe that there's a logical response other than the one she has." As Keller, your point of view might be something like, "That's just not going to happen," or "That's just not an option," or whatever it might be from you. You may just not have any words to say. You may just be like, "I don't know." So you start to see how this becomes a conversation that isn't just reading lines, but it's actually a human-to-human conversation that you as the actor start to take ownership of what you say because of what you do in the scene. What is Chris doing in this scene actively? You could say something like, "Persuading Joe to convince Kate that Larry's dead." And if you're Joe, what are you trying to do? It seems like Joe is always trying to avoid the conflict, avoid the truth in some way. But in this scene specifically, you could say, prevent Chris from ruining Kate's life. That's just one example of going line by line in a scene to try to specify what it is that you're saying as a means to getting done what you know you're trying to achieve in the scene. Because acting is not pretending, acting is not saying lines, acting is doing. Act, do, act, activity, action, acting. Act is do. Act is not fake. Act is not pretend. Acting is doing. If you type the word memorize in anything in my store, you're going to get 60% off. Everything. It's only going to last a very limited time. But if you're looking for something in there, I love to provide discounts. I want you guys to get that stuff because it's really going to help you. Focus on what you do. The words help you do what you do. They're not an end in themselves. They're a means to an end. They help you do what you do. I hope this helped, and follow for more acting tips like this one.